David, can this be seen as anything other than a win for Barack Obama?
No, I think it's a tremendous win, and I'm sure the president will see it that way, and his cabinet and Democrats generally, Obama supporters generally. It was the centerpiece of his first term in office. He's been criticized for maybe overly focusing on healthcare to the exclusion of job creation and so on, but there's no doubt it's an incredible achievement. Various governments have been struggling with this issue for 40 or 50 years in America. They've got a very chaotic healthcare system, and he's the first president who's been able to really bring a comprehensive package to bear. So I think he'll feel totally happy and vindicated.
Well, how surprising was it that this bill has survived because of the support from Chief Justice Roberts, a Conservative appointee from George W. Bush?
You probably could have got good odds on that if you're a betting person. I think most Democrats thought if it got up, it was going to get up 5-4, and that the key vote will be Justice Kennedy, Anthony Kennedy, who's normally the swinging voter in the middle of the two blocks of 4 liberals and 4 conservatives. Kennedy actually voted with the conservatives on this occasion, and so it was up to Chief Justice Roberts to save the day, and he did. I think a lot of people will be surprised, and I think that may have been an element in it. The court's come under tremendous criticism, and the polls show public respect for the court dropping dramatically over the last decade, with a perception that it's really a partisan political body rather than a judicial body. And I think Roberts, who's the Chief Justice and whose legacy this is, has been at pains to say, no, we decide on the merits, we take each case as it comes, we don't have predetermined views. And I think he'll be quite pleased to be able to show that he was able to move across party lines and make a decision that was merited.
Well, how will Mitt Romney navigate his way through this now when he introduced a very similar legislation, which was so-called Romneycare, to his state, Massachusetts, just a few years ago?
Yeah, you wouldn't know that from his current statements, would you? It's quite remarkable, but I guess politicians have a tremendous capacity, chutzpah, we know it in some ways, to deny the undeniable. The bill itself, the Obamacare, is really based on a conservative plan. Most advocates on the left have been proposing a so-called public option, very similar to what we have in Australia, which is that there's a single-payer, government-run organization that delivers health care. The Conservative Heritage Foundation some years ago said, no, we want to design something that incorporates the private sector to a much higher degree. Interestingly, the first champion of that scheme was Newt Gingrich, who is not someone you would associate with the current law either. And then the first person to legislate in this area was, in fact, Mitt Romney. The scheme that Obama adopted, while on a national level, is very, very similar to the scheme that was introduced by Romney, and which previously he had suggested was the signal achievement of his governorship. Now he's completely abandoned that and pretending that it's a very different scheme. It's not.
Can you tell us a little bit more about this ruling? Because in a way it's good for the states, isn't it?
Yeah, it's well, there were two main bits to Obamacare in terms of structure. One was the individual mandate, that was that individuals or companies that employ individuals would have to buy health care. And that was the controversial part of it going in. And in fact, the court ruled in favor of that, and Roberts was a swing vote on that by saying it's really a taxation measure. If you don't buy your health insurance, then the penalty is a tax penalty enforced through the tax system. It starts at $100 in a couple of years, and then it's indexed and goes up to a few $100s over time. So that was the private component. On the public side, Obama put many, many billions of dollars additionally into health care in order to extend coverage to the 30 to 50 million Americans who had no coverage previously. But that was going to be done through the states. And the legislation said, we'll give you all this extra money, But if you don't play ball, then we'll not only not give you that money, but we'll take away some or all of the money you were getting previously. And that's what the Supreme Court said, no, you can't do that. You can give them additional money, but you can't play games on the funding. And so it is a bit of a nod to states' rights, I guess, and you can see where Roberts would feel comfort in that.
Well, how do you expect Republican states to react to this?
Well, there's only a few months ago before the election, so I suspect there's not going to be much action one way or the other. Many of them will, I think, drag their feet and wait to see what happens in the election. I should say there's also pressure from insurers and pharmaceutical companies and health maintenance organizations who really want some certainty. This has been going back and forth for years. Now they bought into the Obamacare system. They said, this is not our ideal system, but it's better than a public option, which cuts us out entirely or overregulates us. And so I think they'll want to stick with the current system. They'll not want the thing to change every year.
And what does it mean for the Tea Party? It got plenty of traction on this issue in 2009. Does this ruling now mean that it puts the defibrillators on its campaign?
Well, no doubt they'll be outraged by it, and I think Chief Justice Roberts will get some mail that he probably doesn't want to read. So it will energize the right wing, the Republican base. That may or may not be a good thing for Romney. I mean, he had to play to that base in order to get the nomination. But he's been trying to move away. You don't win elections by either appealing to the sharp left or the sharp right. You've got to play in the middle. And I think it's really who's going to win the battle of ideas about health care. How is it done? The Obamacare plays badly in the polling, so a preponderance of Americans say they don't like it. But then if you break it down, there was a Bloomberg poll that was done recently that didn't talk about Obamacare at all. It just took the ideas from Obamacare and said, do you like this? Do you like this? Do you like this? 80% of respondents said that they really liked it, but they didn't like Obamacare. So clearly Obama's got to be explaining much more clearly the benefits of his system and why it's important for people to have that.
Well, David, why is access to healthcare such a polarizing subject for Americans?
It's not healthcare itself. What it is the strong ideology underlying American culture, which is government is bad, keep government out of it, I don't want to give any more money to government, I want to run my own life. It's a very American thing. We don't have that. We think of ourselves as very similar to Americans here. Canadians must think they're reasonably similar to Americans, and yet we have very different healthcare systems, as do the UK, Japan, Korea, Taiwan,
Well,
almost
I think
all of Europe.
Rwanda even has universal healthcare.
Well, every OECD country except the United States has it. So often in America they say, oh, we don't want to be like X country, but really they're the outlier. It's not that they're slightly different than other countries. And the problem there, it's a really self-defeating ideology in this particular area because they spend about 18% of GDP on health care in America. We spend 9%. We have 100% coverage. In America, 30 to 50 million Americans are not covered at all. The rate of costs rising in the healthcare sector much higher in America than here. So it isn't an effective system. I mean, it's obvious that that's the case. It's not efficient, it's not effective, it's not equitable. And yet that ideology of we can't let government do it, and if government takes over healthcare, we'll have death panels and other craziness like that. I mean, that's really ideology. It's not a sober, dispassionate assessment of a particular healthcare scheme.
David Weisbrot, thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure, James.